Well, good morning, church. My name is Ron Otto. I'm the lead pastor here, and it's a joy to be with you in worship today. For all of our newcomers, thanks for coming. It always blesses us. We hope today will be a blessing for you. The sermon title is Every Footprint Tells a Story. We're going to talk about footprints today and the footprints that we leave behind. Here's a series of footprints. The first picture is dinosaur footprints. They are found all over the world now. That's a picture from New Mexico. Very clear footprints of a dinosaur. The second one is a prehistoric human footprint, which, by the way, you can look this up. They are now discovering human footprints that were laid in the mud at the same time certain dinosaur footprints were laid. And that, according to science, can't happen. Now, according to science, those should be millions of years apart, but they're finding them together, which is curious. The third picture, that's a Sasquatch footprint, which, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Bigfoot the master of the game hide and seek? Oh, you better laugh when you get a chance. It doesn't get better than that today. So that's the Chinese theater in Hollywood where they do celebrities and stars and they put their footprints. You can actually stand where old stars have stood. And then the final one is the iconic, my favorite footprint of all, Neil Armstrong's footprint on the moon. One small step for man, one giant step for mankind. We're all leaving footprints behind us. Are we leaving the right kind of footprints? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. We all have footprints in our life we wish we could go back and change. We all do. But it's never too late to start laying down footprints that might help lead someone else to Jesus Christ. This whole series on footprints that we are diving into came out of the youth of our church. Zach and the young people have been studying, what's it take even for a young person to lay down footprints that would help someone else find their way to Jesus. And that so captivated me that our young people were doing that and interested in that. And I'm just so impressed with the high schoolers in the junior high of our church. And I thought that would make a great series for us in May to allow the adults to come along on that too. When we're out in Colorado, we sometimes encounter snow. This is backpacking in the high country in July. We don't see snow here in Lincoln in July, but way out there in the high country, you encounter snow. And then sometimes we have to let somebody go up and over the snow first to see if they post hole. If they break through. And if they don't break through, then the rest of us follow in those steps, leaving the heaviest guy to the end. Thank you, everyone, for that. I always loved watching our kids at the beach playing with the waves. They'd run out toward the ocean as the wave was going out and leave their little footprints and turn around and come back. But as that wave came in, that wave would always wash away their footprints. Chinese theater did it right. They didn't leave footprints in sand. They made sure that the footprints were in cement so they'd last a long, long time. What I'm trying to do in my life is leave a series of footprints that others can follow and find their way to Jesus, that are solid, that are in cement. It's not always easy. Wherever we go, whatever we say, whatever we do, we're leaving footprints behind us. Some of these marks will be remembered for years to come. Some of you have footprints in your life of a grandparent or a parent or a teacher or a professor or a coach or a mentor of some kind. And they left this unbelievable footprint on you, and you cannot deny it. It has reshaped your whole being. Wouldn't it be nice to do that for someone else following behind us? What footprints will I leave in this life? Will our steps encourage others to follow Jesus? Gosh, I hope so. Our passage today is going to be unique because we're going to be talking about footprints. It's one of the great stories of Jesus, and he left footprints everywhere he went, but someone's going to want to call me out. Wait a minute, Ron, that's the one place Jesus didn't leave a footprint, and that's in the Sea of Galilee. For all of our newcomers, this comes out of Matthew 14. You can look it up. I'm going to narrate the story for us today, all right? In the Sea of Galilee, the reason storms pop up so without warning, unpronounced, is because of the dynamics of the of the ground there. The Sea of Galilee is nearly 1,000 feet below sea level, but the mountains around the sea are nearly 2,000 feet above sea level, and that creates this dynamic of wind and storm where storms can come up even on a seasoned fisherman without any warning. They can be out there, it can be perfectly calm, and within just minutes, it can turn into this terrible storm. The disciples find themselves in a boat on the Sea of Galilee, without Jesus in the boat. And one of those storms come up without warning. You know, this is an easy thing to preach in our lives because some of you have had storms without warnings. Something tragic has happened in your life. Something really shook you to your core without anyone. Man, it just hit you, and it hit you hard and fast, and you're like, what is that? And these poor fishermen are inside this boat, and it's rocking and tipping, and they're trying to keep the water out, and they're hanging on for dear life, and they're rowing for everything they got, just trying to hold this thing together. And in the midst of this terrible storm, they look up and they see Jesus walking on the water. Now, you've been in Sunday school. You've heard this story for years. Sometimes a preacher can say that, and you're like, oh yeah, Jesus walking on water. I know this story. It's no big deal. And I need you to stop for a moment today and get re-amazed with this story. Jesus was walking on water. All the other religious founders of our world never did that. Buddha never walked on water. Confucius never walked on water. Krishna never walked on water. Muhammad never walked on water. Even the great Moses never walked on water. But Jesus did it. And man, what would that even be like? In my research for this sermon, I found a gold nugget in the Old Testament that I didn't even know was there. Way, way back in the oldest book we have in the Bible. It's not Genesis, by the way. That was written later. The oldest book in the Bible we have is the book of Job. And in Job chapter 9, it says this. He's talking about God. God alone stretches out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea. Only God can tread on the sea. And if Jesus is doing that, then who is Jesus? Isn't that an absolute nugget in the Old Testament? Well, when the disciples see Jesus, they don't recognize him as Jesus. They freak out because they think they are seeing a ghost, and they're all scared. And Jesus comes to them and take courage, it is I. You know, this week I'm thinking that maybe later on I'm just going to jump out and scare my wife at some point. And when she's freaked, I'm just going to say, take courage, it is I. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? And the disciples, they're speechless at this moment. Just speechless. None of them are talking, well, except one, of course, Peter. Peter always is the first one to raise up a voice. Lord, if it's you, he yells out over the wind and the waves. If it's really you, command that I come out to you. Jesus says, come on. Now, the storm hasn't calmed yet, so this boat is still rocking, and Peter pushes by the other disciples, and he throws one leg over the boat, and then he throws a second leg over the boat, and then he stands up, but he's kind of half hanging on, and then all of a sudden he starts walking on water. Pretty impressive moment. But if you know the story, you know what happens next. He turns his attention away from Jesus, and boy, oh boy, there's another sermon I could have gone off. Don't turn your eyes off Jesus in the midst of your storm. What a huge mistake. That storm will swallow you up when you turn your eyes away from him. So you focus on him, you glare at him, you keep your eyes focused right there. But Peter looks around and he sees the wave, and he sees the waves in this wind, and he hears the thunder, and he sees the lightning, and he starts going down. And in his midst of going down and under, he prays the greatest short prayer ever in history. Lord, save me. And the Bible says Jesus immediately reached out and pulled him back to the surface. It's just a great story. I know I'm assuming some things, but at this point, however far Peter walked away from the boat before this happened, now he's walking arm in arm with Jesus back to the boat. So did Peter do it? Yeah, for a short time. It's never recorded he could ever do it again. But in this moment, arm in arm, lockstep with Jesus, he was walking where Jesus walked. Man, I love that. That's not easy, by the way, walking where Jesus walked. You know, young people in the room here for a moment, the teenagers, Jesus laid down some strides that are not easy in our current world. His standard of living, the fact that he leans on the authority of the Bible. Not only am I a Christian, but I accept the authority of the Bible. Those are two different things. Until you rely and rest on the authority of the Bible, you are not a solid Christian. You're just playing games a little bit. Becoming a follower of Jesus, he leaned on the authority of the Word. We lean on the authority of the Word. But he laid out a stride sometimes that is hard to keep up with. My children going up, my sons going up Sleeping Bear Dunes up in Michigan. It's this huge dune that goes way up and all the way to Lake Michigan. And we were there camping. And I was going up the hill and the boys were trying to follow my steps. And Mark said, "Dad, could you walk a little closer?" And I turned around to see what he meant. He meant, my stride was too much for him to do. And he needed my feet to be. And sometimes Jesus lays down a stride that's a little intimidating. For example, before the cross, Jesus was tortured. Jesus was spit upon. The Son of God spit in his face. He was slapped. He was punched. He was tortured. And as they stretched him out on that cross and they were driving nails through his wrist, Jesus prays, "Father, forgive them." You know how hard it is to forgive someone when you've really been stepped on, when someone has really hurt you? Wow. That level of forgiveness, Jesus, that is a stride I'm not sure I can keep up with, and it's a stretch for all of us. Our young people in the room in the youth group said, "Man, we're going to try to walk where Jesus walked," and that is not an easy stride to keep, but I admire him for it. It's exactly what we're commanded to do in 1 Peter chapter 2. Here's our key verse for the month. "To this you were called. Christ suffered for you. He suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps." Follow in his steps. Peter said, "I want to walk where Jesus walked," and today he's walking on water. You know, you would think, like I said at the beginning, this is the one place you can't find the footprint of Jesus in the water, but actually you can, can't you? Because here we are 2,000 years later, and we're still looking at the story, and we're still wagging our head going, that is incredible that Jesus could do that. It left a footprint. And today, just the fact that I've shared this story, if you're not familiar with the story of Jesus walking on water, it's leaving a footprint on you even as I speak. Listen, don't go through this world with all these distractions that are out there, thinking that I'm going to leave a financial footprint or I'm going to leave a career footprint or something, and that's going to be important to my family. That is not the priority to your family. The priority to your family is leaving a series of footprints that helps to bring them into something that's everlasting. Those earthly things, just like Peter was distracted, they're just distractions. You're trying to leave down footprints that mean something in the end. Not footprints in sand, but footprints that are in the concrete of God's eternal destiny for us. And it's not too late. Even if some of us in this room go, "Man, I wish I'd have taken that a little more serious. I wish I would have laid down better foot." It's not too late. It's my favorite preaching point. It's more important how you finish than how you start. And you can start today leaving down incredible footprints. I was blessed in this life to have a legacy of faith. I come from a long series of faith history in my family. Some of my family members from Ohio are here today. My mother is here. My sister Susan is here. My favorite aunt and uncle. I said favorite. Remember that at Christmas, all right? My favorite aunt and uncle are here. They all came over from Ohio on Friday. Somebody left the gate open in Illinois, by the way, but they're here, and they're just part of a long legacy of faith. And then my mom brought an old family Bible that I was even unaware that we had. It's the Otto. It's an old German. It's all printed in German, by the way. And I opened up the front of that, and I started looking, and sure enough, there was my dad's name, my grandfather's name, my great-grandfather's name, my great-great-grandfather's name. And it was just hitting me that I'm following in the footsteps of people. I didn't even know my great-grandfather or my great-great-grandfather. But their names are written in this Bible. They were people of faith, and I'm following in those steps. And about the time I'm all caught up in all these steps that were way ahead of me, I felt this tug on my pocket, and I turn around, and there's a grandchild. Papa, push me on the swing. And I'm leaving footprints. Not perfect, far from perfect footprints, but I'm leaving footprints for a generation behind me. And oh gosh, I hope they find their way to Jesus like I did. You're leaving footprints. Every footprint tells a story, by the way. What story is your footprints telling today? Don't get distracted by this world and go down into the depths of the sea. Don't do that. What a waste of a life. Even now, you can turn your attention back toward Jesus. You can get your fixation, your focus on Jesus and get back to following Him. I want to thank my family for just leaving unbelievable footprints in my life. A mom, a sister, a wife who left a footprint on my heart, an aunt and uncle who left a footprint on my bottom when I needed it. Once. I mean, you have no idea how much those mean. And so now here I am, and I'm just like you. I want to start leaving footprints that are important in this world. Father in heaven. Sometimes following the stride of Jesus, that's not easy. Oh my gosh, that can be hard. The way He lived His life, the standard by which He lived His life, the things He did, the things He said, the places He was willing to go, Father. But here we are now. We want to be like Him. Father, forgive us for our failures. Encourage us that the story of our footprints isn't over yet. We can turn the story. We can change it. Leave down something really impressive. And so, Father, the footprints I want to leave is my footprints following Jesus. So help us to do that. That is our prayer today. And everyone said, amen. You know what? If you're ready to start a journey following Jesus and you're ready to take that next step, I'm going to sit right down front here. You can come down and join me. This is our song of invitation right now, and we invite you to come down and start this walk with Jesus. All right? Let's stand together and let's sing.